I want to talk about one of my favorite features of HALion, and it's something called the FlexPhraser, which is kind of a super arpeggiator which was ported over from Yamaha's workstations. The montage and the motif, it was something that they had, and when Yamaha bought Steinberg, they just added it to HALion. And if you have HALion or if you have Sonic, which comes with Cubase, you've noticed little presets like this one. This one's called One Finger Rocking Six String. And if I hit this C here, and you can hear it has, there's some accents in there, and there's some muted notes. It's slightly more complicated than just a traditional arpeggio, and some of them are really complicated. But what I found is interesting is when you actually try and play one of these things and not just do a one finger version. So like, let's say I try to play this. And I can move my fingers really fast. And this kind of fast movement, which is something I really want to do because it's what I do when I play my guitar, is something I haven't been able to do when I use virtual guitar instruments. I have a lot of them, and they do great things that I can't do as a guitarist, like, for example, keep rhythm. Okay, this is more or less the same thing as what I was doing with HALion, but let me try and do the fast movement. It just chokes. And the reason I'm using this example of Amber is because Amber chokes a whole lot less than some of the other guitar virtual instruments that I have. It's actually really, really good. I have been able to achieve really good effects with Amber, but when I go back to something like HALion and do this stuff, now, of course, I'm limited by working with this pattern, but I'm also working within patterns within these other programs, and I'm just able to use it with a lot more flexibility within HALion. And the thing that's interesting with all these FlexPhrasers, they can be assigned to any instrument in HALion. So you could make it a piano, you could make it an organ, you could make it any of the ethnic instruments that they have. And so how does it all work? Well, if you look up here on the menu, you can see that there, underneath it, there's a trigger, which are these trigger pads here. And then there's the FlexPhraser. So if I have it selected like I do, and I go through the tabs here to edit, I then can see my FlexPhraser. I'm allowed to have up to 8 FlexPhrasers associated with one preset. So, for example, this is rhythm 6, and let's say I want to put something into rhythm 2. So I'm going to go, I kind of know where that one is. These are construction sets. These are all supposed to work with each other in the way that loop construction sets do. I'm going to go down here, and that was rhythm 6. So I'm going to try and add rhythm 7 to the second spot. And let's see if I did. Well, all right, rhythm 6, rhythm 7, hooray. And these pads, you can set them up any way you want, but you can also save sort of pad configurations. And I've done this because I want to be able to use another device, like for example this little Rolly pad I have here, to be able to work with them from here. So I can have up to 8 of these pads going. You can also very easily do things like snapshot a chord, so you can click it and then play a chord on your keyboard, and it'll remember that, and you could say that's D minor, that's A. You can do whatever you want with these 8 pads. So anyway, we know what number 1 is, so if I pick number 2, so they're a little bit different, That's 1. So, I suppose you could set up a whole arrangement, putting things in, different variations from 1 to 8. But the real problem with it is there really aren't enough to satisfactorily do that with every pattern that you like. And that's, to me, one of the biggest problems with the FlexPhrasers, is there just aren't enough of them. I wish that Steinberg or Yamaha would make more, because this is a really nice feature. You can't make your own FlexPhrasers. They have a user thing, which is really just typical arpeggiator. They're not, you can't edit. They have some arps and things that you can put in this area, but this whole area just works like a conventional arp. FlexPhrasers are much more unusual, and complicated. So, for example, if I go back here, I'm going to put a flamenco patch up, and that sounds like this. No, it doesn't. It sounds like this. That's just one finger press. That's too specific, and it's very long. But if you play this, all of these things can work in complicated ways if you play over them. And if we, just going to get rid of that. So let's say I want to add a piano, electric piano, digital, and okay, I'm going to try FM ballad EP, and that sounds like this. Okay, so I like the FlexPhraser from this guitar, so I can copy that, and I can go over to the FM ballad thing, and I can just paste it on there. And at that point, sorry. So if you look at all the different FlexPhrasers, and you look at all the instruments, which is infinite because HALion has a number of synths. It's got an analog synth. It's got a granular synth. It's got wavetables. So all the sounds that you can make and combine with HALion can use these FlexPhrasers, and so you can get some interesting combinations. So like, for example, this one, I've just taken, this is a regular preset that comes with HALion. And then there's another one. I'm putting these together into one patch because they're just completely random. And I just pulled a bunch of things in here because I want to see how some of them would work together. And it sounds like this. Something is funny, something is rotten with this one. Well, I can't figure it out, so I'm just going to mute it. So the point I'm trying to make here is that because you can have these different guitars playing at the same time, playing different kinds of arpeggios, different kinds of patterns, it can sound like a very interesting ensemble. And there's so many different things that you can work with to create this kind of rhythmic complexity and sonic complexity. And that's what HALion is all about. It's not so much about getting you the best nylon guitar that money can buy, but what it does have is this really amazing arpeggiator, and I don't know of anything like it in any other virtual instrument. And that's why I tend to play HALion a lot. It's because of this. It's because of this. And my main complaints with it, even though I love it, there are a few things that could be improved. First of all, I would like to see more stuff. There's just not a lot of options. And I get the impression, rightly or wrongly, that this thing is just kind of stuck in the time when the workstation came out. I don't get the feeling that they're updating the FlexPhrasers for styles of music that are popular today. And I think they could really do that. In fact, I think they could charge us for them. I think people would be much more excited to buy this thing if they knew it was there and they knew all the possibilities it held. And if somebody said, all right, here's another 500 or another 1,000 FlexPhrasers that you could buy as an expansion, I think people would be very interested in that, because every time you get more FlexPhrasers, it increases the potential of the instrument. The other thing that I think could be improved is that there are key switches on these instruments. And I find these key switches very scary. Some of them work okay, but I've found that they're buggy, and when I hit the wrong one, then I'm totally screwed with that instrument, and the only thing I can do is go back to the beginning and start all over again with a new instance, because that key switch just screwed me. And they know this, because within the FlexPhraser they have a button that says key switch off. So you can check that, and theoretically the key switches would be off. But guess what? It doesn't work. So there are bugs in it like that that would be really nice if they fixed, and I'd like to see more of it. There's an interesting feature here, which is a record feature. So you can play it, and then instead of just having the notes that I'm playing here, you can get all the stuff that is generated by the FlexPhraser. And after you've recorded it, this thing lights up, and you can drag that MIDI phrase right into your DAW, which is useful. You can change the way the velocity is set. Here's the original. You can have it controlled, and you can set up, so if I set up a velocity controller, I have numerous options for what controller I want it to use. I can even combine the original with some kind of velocity control. You can add swing to it. You can change numerous things like the tempo scale that will change it. But I wish that I could just go in there and totally, change a note here, change an emphasis here, but you cannot edit the FlexPhrasers. All you can do is use them and make these kinds of tweaks. Over here you can see that there can be switchovers on velocity, and there can be switchovers on low key and high key if you want to set up keyboard splits, which is a pretty obvious way to use this. But I think it's a really interesting feature within HALion that's very little understood and very little explored. So I hope you will do that either with HALion or with Sonic. And thanks for listening.